and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I would like to discuss the 2009 horror film, The Haunting in Connecticut. This has Virginia Madsen's in this, Elias Koteas is in this, and the rest of the cast, I recognize them. They popped up in a bunch of places. Now, this movie is far from perfect. But back in the late 2000s, right around when this movie was released, I noticed that a lot of the horror movies were more along the lines of like Jennifer's Body, or it was like The Uninvited, or Daybreakers. And this seemed more like a genuine haunted house movie, which at this point wasn't happening a lot. So it looked legit. The previews looked honest enough. So I saw this movie, and even though I don't love this movie, I mean, the main thing I don't love about this movie is the cancer aspect. It's just way too heavy. But this is a fun, yet flawed horror movie about a haunted house. The story is simple enough. You've got Matt, his mom, Sarah, dad, Peter, and then you've got father, Nick, Elias Koteas, his sister, Matt's sister, Wendy. They all move into this old mortuary because of Matt's cancer treatment is pretty invasive, and he's left in a lot of pain afterwards, and he can't take the commute home because the hospital is too far from his actual house. So his parents rent this house, which used to be an old mortuary, because the price is cheap. And it does make Matt's life and his treatment a lot easier. But needless to say, there's a lot wrong with this house, and there's a bunch of bodies buried in the wall because the dude who was in charge of the house, the mortician, and his assistant, this kid, they were up to no good. All sorts of necromancy and all that, cutting off the eyelids, keeping them in boxes and shit, and that's fucking awesome. Could you imagine moving into a house and finding a box of eyelids? At first, you wouldn't even know what they are. And then it would just fucking hit you as you're holding one. You'd be like, oh, these are eyelids. Like, yo, fuck that. We're moving. And I liked how old this house was. I liked all the postmortem photography. I've always thought postmortem photography was an incredibly nice thing that people did. I know a lot of people get creeped out by it. I never felt that way. I saw it like the people who lost the loved one, they just wanted to keep them around. And photographs were incredibly expensive at this point. So the only time that this person most likely ever had their photo taken is when their family pooled their resources together to get the picture taken after they had died, so that they could keep a picture of the deceased standing with the rest of the family around, so it's like they were still there. So I never felt that postmortem photography was all that morbid. I thought it was incredibly nice. I think it's incredibly nice. I mean, it's a little dated and archaic at this point, but nevertheless, I could understand why somebody would do that, especially when it involves like a kid. I could see propping the kid up so the kid looks alive, and then, the father and mother get a photo taken with it so that the kid's still sort of around. So I think that's rad, and I like the postmortem photography plays a small part in this. And I absolutely love the mortuary. The mortuary is believably ancient. The embalming room and everything in the basement is sufficiently creepy. And the jump scares are fun. But this movie just runs a little long, and Matt's cancer, holy fuck, does that add a lot of unnecessary emotional weight to this. I believe Virginia Madsen's pain, and his father's pain too. I think his dad's name again is Peter. I believe his parents, I believe their performances, but I just found that, fuck, that just makes this movie way too serious. And had you just removed the cancer aspect, this movie would have been a hell of a lot more fun. But I love the effects. I love the jump scares. They're not perfect. I do love how the bodies are all buried in the walls. And I do genuinely love the atmosphere created by the mortuary itself. But I just found that the cancer aspects, and then tossed in with the fact that his dad's a recovering alcoholic, and this fucking family just can't catch a break. It's just too heavy for a movie that's this stupid and this flawed. So that's where I'm leaving it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 4.5 minutes while I discussed the flawed yet fun 2009 horror film, The Haunting in Connecticut. Like always, if you like this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. But most importantly, please don't forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it. Like always, I'm getting out of here. Have a good night.